my mom is from Serbia. My dad's from Romania, and they're immigrants, and they came over here. I'm first generation American, and you know, what shapes a lot of who I am too is that, like my dad, he wasn't diagnosed, but I'm like, there's no way that he wasn't bipolar, right? And he was like really violent. And because of that, I have like PTSD, and I have to learn how to navigate the world with that. Like, how do I be an artist? How do I be a designer? And I've figured it out for the most part, which is really nice. And I'm okay with sharing that story because I think as designers, as architects and landscape architects, we tend to really like shield our imperfections, right? Like from our clients and from the people that we work with, and always portray like this like magnificent facade of like who we are. And I wish I could do that as well. But like more importantly than creating that facade is sharing who I am and my experiences, then later on, of course, dealing with like sobriety because of the self-medication that I had to do with dealing with the PTSD. But by sharing that facade or sharing the real me, what like makes me now, gives other people confidence. And I have people reach out and say, like, thank you for being vulnerable because this is what I grew up with. This is what I'm dealing with. And I thought I was the only one. And I was considering not pursuing this career because I felt like an outcast. But if you could do it, then that means that I could do it, right? It's just certain things that I have to put in place to make sure that I'm okay. It might be a little bit different than other people. And that's fine. I just have to do it. Like one good example is, so I work in a co-working space, right? And a lot of people have their phones that when they get a text, it's like that ding, right? And to everybody else, it's completely fine. But for me, that high-pitched little ding noise is really hard to deal with, especially if it's 3 or 4 people and it's like happening all day long because everybody's like entrepreneurs and freelancers around here, and it could just like stop me from working. So I have to be able to walk up to them and say, hey, like, this is kind of weird, but I have PTSD and that loud pitch noise is really hard for me to deal with. Do you mind changing it to the bamboo setting? That's like a real natural like knock, like, and that's like totally fine for me to deal with. And so once I started owning like what I'm dealing with in my space, then I don't have to sit there insufferable trying to deal with all of that. And anyone that I've ever asked that from is like, oh yeah, no problem. Totally cool. Like, I got you. Like, is this setting cool? Like, you can put on silent, They're like, no, you don't have to put on silent. But that's good enough for me. And it's those little things that you would never think of.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you shared that because, I mean, I think if people don't share their true selves, like I don't have PTSD, so I would never understand that unless someone like you shared that with me. Yeah. You can hear about it on the news or read about it and stuff, but until somebody articulates it like you just did, how even the simplest ding can trigger something, people wouldn't understand. And to go off of, I didn't want to interrupt you in your comments, but I think that there's a certain amount of like genuine, like, I mean, human beings, we're not perfect. Like, we're less than perfect. So for people to try to put on this facade of perfection, I believe it sometimes is off-putting because most people know, like, That's what makes them want to pick underneath the layer to say, okay,
there's something there.
There's something here. Like, you can't be this perfect, And I think you and I and Julia, like we share that because, sometimes I'll share so much personally and people will be like, man, why do you share this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Because I'm not ashamed of anything that happens. Everything that is our past is what's molding us in the present. So I'm never ashamed of any of it. It sounds like that's same thing with you,
Yeah. Also, they're like, I think people are starting to understand that whole machismo facade, like, especially like being a man, like, what does that mean? And like, people are much more receptive to men being like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. If anything, I would say it's a very like courageous thing to do as well. It's almost less courageous to hide it and pretend it and then have to deal with it completely. But at the same time, as a business owner and leading several different fronts, you also have to be stoic and know when to, it's a balance, right? You can't just like the pencil sharpener breaks and dive into like childhood traumas or something,
Yeah, one of the things that I always tell Julia, because I don't want her to fall into my same pitfalls.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel like she already is I feel like as leaders, sometimes we become like stress capacitors for the people we work with, so all these people around us see us as like their rock, right?
Yeah.
So then they come to work with all of these stressors that they have, and they'll like, they'll share them. And I'm always someone that wants to hear those stresses. And this is what I'm saying. I feel like she does the same thing. And then some of the people closest to me know my stress capacitor is about 3 months worth. So I can deal with 3 months of everybody's like outside stress. And then all of a sudden I look insane because I'm like, I'm done with it. I can't, this is this and this is that. And they're like, whoa, So one of the things though, that I can say is like, it's difficult because I could be better. It's like I could be better at not allowing it to turn into that capacitor type of take all that negative energy and store it and then explode it. It would be almost better for me to share back and be like, so, okay, let's talk about that, but let's stop talking about, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. You could also you could also bring like outside consultants in as well to like how to mitigate that, right? Like, so like if your employees feel like there's a space for them to healthily, I don't know how to say that word, but a healthy way of expressing their frustrations in their life. So that way it doesn't carry on into work and you have to carry that weight as well. Like a filter, maybe.
Have you ever watched the show Billions?
Which one?
Billions.
No.
It's on Showtime.
One of his favorites.
It's one of my favorite
I've
shows.
never watched it.
Okay, so it's awesome. But anyways, it's about a guy in the stock market. But anyways, he has a kind of like he calls them like stress coaches. Her name's Wendy Rhodes. And anyways, Bobby Axelrod owns X Capital. But everybody sometimes when I say I watch Billions, they're like, oh, you think you're Bobby Axelrod? And I go, no, I'm Wendy Rhodes. I deal with everybody's problems all the time,
Yeah.
So
he's not exaggerating. He does. It's something too that I've realized with the role that I'm in, that like I definitely vent my stress to you. But now, like in the position I am, I actually do realize, because now I think I get a lot of, the team that I work with, just everyone day to day, I listen to all their stressors. And then, I don't want to be like, all right, well, this is my stress and my stress and my stress. And then I come home and I let him know my stress. But it's kind of crazy to think too. I've never looked at it like from his view, but now I am in his role, so like somewhat, you know, a smaller version. But now I actually see what he means when it's like, okay, you take in everyone's stress to what extent though? But it's kind of crazy because I think people on the outside don't actually realize how much stress as a leader you can take in from other people until it kind of hits you and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot.
Yeah.
It's something that it's more relevant to me now. Like,
It is a lot. It is a lot.